Alright, you lot. I've got a question that might get me crucified by half the PC gaming community. Is Steam actually a good guy? Or have we been simping for landlord? See, I got a comment on a GOG video that got me thinking. Someone said they never heard out bad about Steam except for gambling stuff. And I thought, bloody hell, have we really let Valve skate by this long without anyone checking under hood? Because when you start digging, and I mean properly digging, what you find ain't pretty. Antitrust lawsuits, abandoned games, customer service so bad it got an F rating. An illegal battle is happening right now that could prove Steam has been artificially inflating price of every PC game you've ever bought. So as we know, Steam is genuinely good at what it does. Client works, sales are legendary, library management is solid, community features are extensive, workshop support for mods is brilliant, remote play, family sharing, Steam Deck. Valve's earned a lot of goodwill over 20 odd years, and that goodwill has created what I like to call Steam Bubble. This cosy little reality where most PC gamers genuinely can't name a single thing wrong with platform. They'll spend hours ranting about EA, Ubisoft, Activision, Epic. But Steam? Steam's different. Steam's one of us. Gabe Newell is basically gaming Santa Claus, right? Just one problem with bubbles though. They're comfortable until they pop. And pinheading towards this and is currently sitting in a Seattle federal courthouse, representing 32,000 game developers and potentially billions of dollars in damages. But before I get into that, let me burst a few smaller bubbles. Ones Valve hopes you've forgotten about. Remember CSGO gambling scandal? Back in 2016, it came out that millions of dollars were being wagered on third-party gambling sites using weapon skins as currency. Miners were betting their parents' credit cards dry. And YouTubers like T. Martin and Pro Syndicate were caught promoting their own gambling site without disclosing they bloody owned it. And Valve sat on their hands for years while this were happening, collecting marketplace fees on every skin that changed hands. They eventually sent cease and desist letters to 23 gambling sites, but only after mainstream news picked up story and lawsuits started flying. Washington State Gambling Commission had to get involved before Valve lifted a finger. That's not proactive customer protection. That's damage control after Horse has not only bolted, but opened its own offshore casino. Then there's Team Fortress 2, one of the most beloved multiplayer shooters ever made, still in Steam's top 10 most played games, still generating revenue through cosmetics and Manco store. And Valve's reward for loyal community? Complete and utter abandonment. Last major content update was Jungle Inferno update in October 2017. That's over 8 years ago. 8 years without significant new content for a game that's still printing money. Community begged for help with bot infestation that would destroy casual matchmaking, aimbots, spinbots, chat spam, servers completely unplayable. Valve's response? Crickets. A skeleton crew were allegedly 4 developers left to maintain the game with tens of thousands of concurrent players. They finally announced an update after massive community pressure with Safe TF2 campaign in 2022. And to the credit, they did eventually deliver something in 2023. But the fact that it took a viral hashtag and years of begging to get Valve to pay attention to one of their own flagship titles tells you everything about their priorities. If it's not generating headlines or threatening their bottom line, it's not getting resources. And speaking of not giving a toss about the customers, take a look at Valve's legendary customer service. In 2015, Better Business Bureau gave Valve an F rating, lowest possible grade. Out of over 700 complaints filed, Valve failed to respond to more than 500 of them. Their own representative, Eric Johnson, admitted to Kotaku that the support wasn't where they needed it to be. That was 10 years ago. Check reviews today, and you'll still find horror stories of week-long response times, copy-paste template answers, and genuine issues getting buried in automated hell. For a company that prints money like Valve does, the fact they can't hire enough staff to answer the customers is a choice, and it's a choice that says everything about where the priorities actually lie. Now here's where we connect back to digital ownership problem I've been banging on about. In October 2024, Steam added a new message to the checkout page. A little disclaimer that says, a purchase or a digital product grants a license for product on Steam. Translation? You don't own your games. You never did. That library you've spent thousands of pounds building over years, that's not yours. It's Valve. They're just letting you borrow it until they decide otherwise. This isn't unique to Steam. This is how digital licensing works across industry. But Valve were forced to make this explicit because of new California law requiring digital storefronts to stop pretending they're buying something when they're actually renting it. Law exists because companies like Valve have been using words like purchase and buy for decades, while fine print says you own precisely fuck all. And here's where it gets properly grim. Steam support has confirmed that you can't transfer your library when you die. Can't pass it on to your kids. Can't merge your accounts. Can't put it in your will. That collection you've been building since Half-Life 2 dies with you. Every penny you spent, every hour you invested in curating that library, gone. Because you were never owner. You were always just a tenant. But let's get into it, money. Steam takes a 30% cut of every game sale. That's standard rate unless you're a massive publisher hitting over 10 million in revenue, at which point it drops to 25%, then 20% after 50 million. So, rich get a discount and indie developers eating beans on toast pay full freight. Seems fair? Yeah, 30% has been industry standard for ages. Console storefronts charge similar rates. But when Epic launched their store with a 12% cut, they proved it was possible to run a digital storefront on less. Much less. Epic's argument was that 30% is a relic from physical retail era when you had to pay for shelf space, shipping, manufacturing, and returns. None of that applies to digital distribution. Actual cost for hosting and bandwidth is a fraction of what these platforms charge. In GDC's developer surveys, only 6% of developers said Steam's 30% cut is justified. 6%! Vast majority wanted something closer to 10 to 15%. But they keep paying it because what choice do they have? Steam controls an estimated 75 to 85% at PC gaming market. If you're not on Steam, you might as well not exist. And that brings us to the real question. Is Steam dominant because they're best, or because they've structured things so nobody else can compete? And I'm not being cynical here. That's literally what's being argued in court right now. Wolfire versus Valve Antitrust lawsuit started in 2021. When indie developer Wolfire Games, folks behind Overgrowth and founders of Humble Bundle, decided they'd had enough. Story goes like this. When Epic and other stores launched with lower commission rates, Wolfire CEO David Rosen thought he'd pass those savings on to customers. Sell games cheaper on platforms that took a smaller cut. Makes sense, right? Reward competition. Let customers benefit. Except when he told Valve about his plan, they allegedly threatened to delist his game from Steam entirely if he offered it cheaper anywhere else. And that's not a one-off. Lawsuit alleges Valve has an unwritten policy that lawyers call a most favoured nation clause that prevents developers from selling their games cheaper on competing platforms. Even if Epic only takes 12% and Steam takes 30%, you can't pass those savings on to customers. Price has to stay the same everywhere. Now think about what that means. It means Steam's 30% cut effectively becomes price floor for entire PC gaming market. That every store has to match Steam's inflated prices, meaning competition on price is literally impossible. And you, consumer, pay more for every single game because Valve won't let anyone undercut them. As of January 2026, this case has been certified as class action representing approximately 32,000 developers. Potential damages exceed $3 billion. Discovery has revealed internal Valve emails where staff allegedly reprimanded developers for offering better deals on rival platforms. Smoking guns there, sitting under court seal until trial. Valve's defense strategy? They're trying to redefine market. They're arguing that Steam doesn't just compete with Epic and GOG, it competes with PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo. If court accepts that definition, Valve's market share drops from 75% to under 30%, and monopoly argument falls apart. That's legally clever. It's also complete bollocks. Try playing your Steam library on a PlayStation. Go on, I'll wait. Trial was originally scheduled for late 2025, but has been delayed by pre-trial warfare. Valve is fighting every inch of Discovery. A consumer class action is running in parallel. This goes to jury and Valve loses could fundamentally change how Steam operates. If Valve wins, they've proven they can do whatever they want. Either way, this is the biggest legal threat Valve has ever faced. Most gamers have never heard of it. So let me quickly run through some other issues that don't get enough attention. In November 2024, Anti-Defamation League published a report finding over 40,000 user groups on Steam with names referencing white supremacist, Nazi, and anti-Semitic content. Senator Mark Warner wrote to Valve demanding answers about their content moderation. Valve's hand-off approach to platform governance has left this to fester for years. There's also a UK lawsuit filed in June 2024, accusing Valve of rigging market and overcharging 14 million British customers. They're seeking up to £650 million in damages. That's separate from American class action. Valve's been sued on multiple continents for the same basic behaviour. And don't forget Counter-Strike 2, which deleted CSGO from existence, leaving players who couldn't run new game with note. Years of progress, thousands of hours, gone, because Valve decided old version didn't need to exist anymore. Your game, your time, your investment, deleted at their convenience. So no, Steam isn't good guy, but I won't call them villain either. There's something more insidious. They're a company that's gotten so big and so comfortable that they don't have to try anymore. They can ignore customer service because where else are you going to go? They can abandon TF2 because it'll keep making money anyway. They can allegedly suppress competition because who's going to stop them? Reason Steam gets a pass with EA and Ubisoft don't ain't because Valve is morally superior. It's because Steam's core service works well enough that you don't look too closely at hotels. You're grateful our launcher don't crash, so you ignore lawsuits. You're happy about sales, so you don't think about 30,000 developers allegedly being price gouged. You love convenience, so you accept that you're renting, not owning. I'm not telling you to delete Steam. I'm not even telling you to stop using it. I've got thousands of games on there myself. What I am telling you is to stop treating Valve like they're your mate. They're not. They're a corporation that has made billions by creating a system where you don't own out. Developers can't compete on price, and whole industry dances to their tune. The fact that they do it with a nicer interface than Ubisoft Connect don't make them good guys. It just makes them better at PR. Remember what I said about GOG, about offline installers that can't be just taken away? This is why that matters. Alternative exists, but people don't use it because Steam is convenient and you've been conditioned to accept that renting is just how things work now. GOG took a direct shot at Steam over this, by the way. When California law forced Steam to add their disclaimer, GOG posted their own, "Purchase a digital product on GOG grants you its offline installers, which cannot be taken away from you." That's not marketing. That's a fundamental philosophical difference in how they treat their customers. Like, subscribe and all that bollocks. Drop your comments and questions below. Tell me if I'm being too harsh on Lord Gaben or not harsh enough. And I'll see you next time, you magnificent.